If you had immature parents, you knew that you were the most grown-up person in that house, even as a kid. Like, we could figure that out at 7 or at 5 or at 8. But as adults, these brilliant survival strategies keep you locked into, a lot of times, high-functioning codependent relationships, self-reliant, or shall I say hyper-independent, because it's really more that, but deeply uncomfortable letting other people meet our needs. Well, hello there. Welcome back to the Terri Cole Show. I'm so happy you decided to join me today. What we're talking about today is a topic that so many people struggle with. And what I've been doing is I've been taking the emails that you guys are sending me and using those emails, your questions, as topics for the Terri Cole Show. So someone wrote me an email. Her question was, how can I create healthy boundaries with immature parents? That her parents are immature. So there's lots of different ways that immature parents will act out this immaturity. They could be inconsistent, they might be critical, they could be self-absorbed, or just not emotionally equipped to deal with conflict, right? If you grew up with that residue can stay put right into your adult life. It's hard to have immature parents. It can impact your confidence, it can impact your relationships, and even your ability to feel safe in yourself, because it's so hard to trust what's going on if you don't feel like you could trust the adults in your life. But here's the good news. You actually can set boundaries with any kinds of people, right? It is possible. So by the end of this episode, you're going to have a deeper understanding of emotionally immature parents. You will learn the mistakes that we fall into so you can avoid them, the biggest mistakes that we fall into trying to set boundaries with immature parents. Get a step-by-step guide for creating boundaries that actually stick, and you're actually going to walk away with a scripture too, because I know that you love it. So before we get into it, if you are new to my channel, well, say hello, please, in the comments. Introduce yourself. We are definitely a friendly group. Don't forget to subscribe. Please hit the bell icon so that you get notified every time we roll something out. And I love all your questions and comments, you guys here on YouTube. So thank you for doing it. I read every single one. You are my people, and I see you, and I really appreciate you. All right, so let's get into it. So trying to understand, let's just start with understanding emotionally immature parents. What does it actually mean? That means your parents might avoid emotional topics or shut down when feelings come up. Make everything about them, even your pain. That is so, speaking of pain, that is so painful when you have a parent like that. They struggle with empathy. They overreact or become defensive to any perceived criticism. And that is also, it's like so hard to have a conversation with someone when that's what they're doing. Immature parents can also have unpredictable moods, sort of creating the walking on eggshell dynamic that we see in so many families of origin, or they can rely on you. I can't tell you how many therapy clients that I've had over the many years who were like decision makers in their family of origin at like 8, deciding where the family would go on vacation, deciding whether, like, insisting that they have another child. One of my friends was telling me a story the other day. And when that kid was born, she was like, he's mine, goodbye. Like, giving a child, when you have immature parents, a lot of times it means that the children have undue power that they don't even want. It's like handing a 4-year-old like keys to the van, and they're like, hello, I'm 4. But it can feel that way, and it creates a real sense of insecurity, and like you're not on stable ground, because with immature parents, you're not. If you grew up with immature parents, you likely adapted in one way or another. So you could have become the pleaser, is one way, right? You learn to keep the peace, often by suppressing your own needs, your wants, your desires. Again, that speaks again to the walking on eggshells too. You could also be the performer, where you work to earn love and approval through achievement, which is super common in my therapy practice, or the caretaker, where you took on adult responsibilities far too young. And that also, we call that parentification at times. But I think having immature parents puts children in the position of being emotionally parentified, even if you weren't making dinner, right? But if you had immature parents, you knew that you were the most grown-up person in that house, even as a kid. Like, we're so dialed in, children. And when you think about how amazing it is that these adaptations that we take on, they are just incredible. They're like genius survival strategies for a kid. Like we could figure that out at 7 or at 5 or at 8. Like, wow, I'm always amazed at our minds and the human condition. But as adults, these brilliant survival strategies keep you locked into, a lot of times, high-functioning codependent relationships. We become overfunctioners, highly capable, self-reliant, or shall I say hyper-independent, because it's really more of that, but deeply uncomfortable letting other people meet our needs, right? So it's not good for our relationships. What we learn in the childhood home when you have immature parents can really be bad for our relationships, but this is where boundaries can come into play in your relationship with your parents, but also in your your adult relationships now. So if you've ever tried setting a limit with an emotionally immature parent, you probably know that doesn't go well, that the pushback is real. Common reactions that could guilt trip you, right? After all I've done for you, playing the victim. Oh, I guess I'm just the worst mother in the world. Has anyone had that experience? Anger. I can't believe you'd be so ungrateful, or why are you making a big deal about this? Or I don't even know who you are, right? So anger. Or minimizing by basically saying you are overreacting by trying to set a limit with me. You've changed and you're overreacting. So why does this happen? Well, think about these established relationships that we have, right? We have, I call them silent agreements. We have unspoken contracts. It's all saying the same thing, right? That have been in place probably for decades. So you're expected to prioritize what you learn in childhood with immature parents, that you're expected to prioritize their comfort over your well-being. That's what you learned in that family system. So when you try to change the dance in adulthood, even young adulthood, there is definitely going to be pushback. And the truth is, you can teach someone, like you can't, as a kid of emotionally immature parents, right? We can't teach them if they don't want to learn. But here's the thing. Your job isn't to teach them how to be better parents or to be more emotionally mature. Your job is to protect yourself, which is what boundaries are about. So much of the time, you guys, people still buy into this myth that boundaries are about controlling other people, right? That it's a way to give ultimatums. And listen, I'm not saying that sometimes part of having deal breakers, which according to me is part of your boundaries, sometimes a deal breaker is an ultimatum, right? But at least we say it and we stick to it with truth. But it's not on the regular. Giving people ultimatums is not boundaries. So I want you to, again, we're going to revisit what are boundaries. Think of them as your own personal rules of engagement, letting other people know what's okay with you and what's not okay with you. So having healthy boundaries requires you to know your preferences, your limits, and your deal breakers. You can't just know them, though. You have to know them and then have the ability to communicate them when you so choose, which can be very difficult if you know you're going to be getting pushback from an immature parent, right? So what are the steps? And you guys, I'm going to give this to you in the guide that goes along with this episode, terricole.com/guide. So these are the steps to setting a boundary, getting clear where you need a boundary. This is the most important thing. It's not just that you're frustrated. It's not just that you're mad. You can't say to someone, you need to be less insensitive, because that doesn't change anything. They don't know what you mean. They don't understand. So this is where we have to get really specific about what is happening. To help you do that, you can take a resentment inventory specifically around your parents, right? Like, what are you holding resentment for specifically? You can't just say they meddle in my life. You have to say when they came to my work when I told them not to, right? You have to be specific with the incidences, because what our resentment does for us, it basically shows us a lot of times where we need a boundary or where a boundary that we've established is being violated. Whether it's intentional or inadvertent, it still can have the same impact on you. The second step is we need to pre-plan, and this is a very important step when you have emotionally mature parents, because the pushback that you expect to get, you probably will, but you need to not take the bait. You need to not fall into the trap. So we're going to strategically figure out the best time and place to have the conversation, but you have to be shore yourself up to be prepared that you're not going to do the familiar dance. If they try to make you feel guilty, or if they try to make you feel bad, you're not going to take the bait. If they say, oh, I'm the worst mother in the world, You're gonna keep sticking to what it is that you have to say. And the next, you need to write the boundary script. So you obviously were not prefacing any conversation with anybody, immature parents or anybody else, when you have to set a boundary with, we have to talk. You know why? Because nobody ever wants to talk with you. If you say those dreaded words, I just gave myself a pit in my stomach saying those words. I hate it when someone says that we have to talk. Why? Immediately, what do you want to say? What's the matter? What's wrong? Something's wrong. So we're going to create a script of concise language. And of course, this is going to be specific to you and your situation. But your goal is to inform the other person of your preference, your request, or your limit. And in some cases, it might be a deal breaker if this has been going on for a long time. But you're going to stick to your own side of the street using I statements, not blaming language, right? You don't have to have the perfect words to execute. You just have to do it. This is what's going to change. It's okay if you do it badly. It's okay if you do it messily. It's okay if you're sweating. You're just going to do it. So we're going to, in the guide, I'm also providing for you some sentence starters to make it easier for you to have the conversation. I'd like to make a simple request. Right? That's super easy. I wanted to bring to your attention. I wanted you to be aware of how I feel about. And then in the guide, I will also give you a few things to say when someone becomes defensive, because they probably will. So what would that look like? If they became defensive, what could you then say? I'm also providing in the guide easy frames, right? I thought you should know, right? Easy frames. If they become defensive, we have a couple of choices, and I'll give you some scripts where you can either acknowledge the fact, I see that this is upsetting to you, and yet I still have to ask you not to just come over my house without calling me, or whatever your boundary request is. So one thing is that we can acknowledge that they're upset. If they start to retaliate or start to say things, you're going to put your hand up and you're going to say, please let me finish before you interject, and then I'll be all ears for what you want to say, right? So we want to not let this devolve into a fight, because somebody interrupting you and being defensive is trying to get you to stop saying what you're saying. And so your job is going to be to stay very neutral, right? And you also cannot pile on 42 boundary requests. You have to really stick to what is the most important thing that you want to say to them. So once you have your script written out, you're going to visualize it going well, meaning you delivering what you want to say the way you want to say it. We don't have the power to dictate how it is received, and that's not your job. So we're not going to focus on that. If they don't like it, that's okay. You're still going to be okay. It's still a win if you do it, right? So that last step is visualize and execute. That's it. So you're just going to do it and realize that your healing comes in asserting yourself, even if they don't understand. And I'll sometimes say to people, hey, you don't have to understand why I feel the way I do. But if you want an important place in my life, you have to care about the way I feel. So stop trying to talk me out of my feelings, right? There's different ways that we can go about it. And it's important that you go into the process of having the conversation where you really feel on solid ground. If they're upset, that doesn't mean you did it wrong. So remember, it's the action of doing it that makes you successful. The last part of this, when you deliver it, is you're going to expect discomfort. There's going to be discomfort, and it's okay. Some people would say it's an extinction burst, right? The old behavior flaring up before it dies down. So because they may push back harder than usual. And then one thing that I want to add to the steps that you're going to put in, if it's a boundary repeat offender, as we call it, then you also want to add a consequence to the boundary. I've asked you several times if you don't, if to call me before you come over, like if your parents have keys to your place or whatever. And if it happens again, I will have to take the keys back, right? They're going to be like, oh, so dramatic. But the thing is, consequences are really, especially with repeat offenders, they're almost the only thing that will make a difference in the behavior. Because a boundary for a repeat offender, I'm not talking about regular people or first timers, but repeat offender, without any consequence, is like a light suggestion as opposed to a limit that you are setting with someone. So that's sort of how we can frame it, that we don't want it to be a light suggestion. We want it to be an actual limit that matters. I'll also give you scripts and scenarios in the guide, so terricole.com/guide. Again, the drop-in visit that's going to be, that's the parent, right? I was in the neighborhood, so I just stopped by. And then I give you the script. I appreciate you wanting to see me in the future. Please call first so I can make sure it's a good time. And again, you may say, well, they won't respect that even if I say it, but you have to start saying it every time. And then we add the consequence if they keep stopping by without letting you know. The scenario number 2, the guilt trip. I guess I won't see you anymore since you're so busy. The script is, I love you and I want to see you. Here are the times that work for me, without falling into what they're trying to do is make you feel guilty. And then the last one, we're talking about boundaries, conversational boundaries. So if they're getting too personal, like, so when are you going to have kids? Your script could be, I'm not discussing that. Let's talk about something else, right? We don't have to. We don't have to do the stuff we don't want to do, and we don't have to talk about things we don't want to. This can be challenging, more challenging when you have immature parents, but it's absolutely possible for you to do it. So if this episode brought up feelings for you, just remember you, my dear, are not alone, right? And you are not at fault, right? Your parents are the way they are. You can change the way you interact, right? You setting boundaries with them is not rejecting them, right? It's a way of self-protection, right? Of self-respect. And listen, your parent may never become mature. They may never become the attuned caregiver you wish they were in your childhood, right? But you can become that for you, which I hope that the Terri Cole Show provides lots and lots and lots and lots, because it's been 10 years. So there's been lots. We have 780 episodes of this thing, believe it or not, that, that you've got information so that you can become that for yourself, because you fully deserve that, right? And when you do that, you stop the generational cycle, right? Hashtag Cycle Breakers. It's absolutely the best. So for a deeper dive into all of this, download the guide, terricole.com/guide. Scripts for boundaries and family is what I'm going to be giving you. And of course, if you want the full framework for becoming a boundary boss in every area of your life, you can always get my book, which is called Boundary Boss. And I also have a signature 8-week program called Boundary Bootcamp. But just remember that your needs actually matter in this life. And whether you had parents that could do that and care about that when you were a kid or not, now is not then. Your voice matters. How you feel matters. What you think matters, as I always say. But it's never too late to change the way that you interact with your parents and anyone else in your life, my friend. I really hope that this episode gave you food for thought, helped you lessen your own suffering and elevate your own joy, which is always my wish. I hope you guys have the most amazing week. Make sure that you go get the guide, terricole.com/guide. And as always, take care of you.